Welcome back to Shots Fired. Well, we know the elites lied to us about the huge global pandemic. We know they have lied to us about wars. They've lied to us about the bio. They've lied to us about so many different things. The moon landing. So if they can lie to us about so many things on a grand scale, what else could they be lying about? What about the 1986 Challenger accident or explosion that supposedly killed 7 astronauts? Are they even maybe still alive? Did that even happen?
Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles for most of the flight, 104%. We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles, downrange distance 3 nautical miles.
So the 25th Space Shuttle mission is now on the way after more delays than NASA cares to count. This morning it looked as though they were not going to be able to get off.
1 minute 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Looks like a couple of the solid rocket boosters blew away from the side of the shuttle in an explosion.
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction. We have no downlink.
We're awaiting word. They're holding their breath just, I'm sure, as everyone else is. You saw it just a few moments ago, about 45 seconds after liftoff, a huge fireball in the sky.
We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded.
There's even a moon landing, a fake moon landing documentary out now, or Hollywood-style production, shall I say, but really it's a documentary called Fly Me to the Moon. And it reveals basically how the moon landing was fake. And so they're kind of putting it in plain sight now. This guest who's joining us right now, Justin Robert, got kicked out of a county commissioner meeting in Florida because he dared to talk about, he used his couple minutes of what was supposed to be free speech commentary time to talk about how NASA and the Challenger explosion of 1986 could potentially have been staged or fake. And he's now suing Brevard County in Florida over this, and it's a huge lawsuit. I can't wait to talk about it. Justin Roberts, thanks so much for joining us on Shots Fired. How's it going?
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Hey, it's great to have you. I was so interested in this because obviously we know at this point, especially with social media, that so many things, if not everything, that the elites feed us through mainstream media and television is usually fake and staged. So tell everybody, if they are not familiar with the 1986 Challenger explosion, tell everybody a little bit briefly what that was, or at least what the main narrative was for that.
Yeah, so essentially, like you alluded to, in 1986, there were 7 astronauts who boarded a rocket. It was a pretty standard mission. They did advertise this one a lot because this is the one that they put a teacher on. This was going to be the first civilian in space. So they really kind of reeled everyone along with this, especially anyone involved with school, teachers and students. And this rocket went up with the whole world focused. So many people have told me in the comments how they just remember that day of rolling that TV out on that thing and everyone gathering around and watching this event together, which is a whole nother thing we can unpack. But it exploded, and everyone thought that those 7 people perished that day. It was a national tragedy. It was so many people were traumatized for watching it live on air. There were over like 11, I think, thousands and thousands of possible contestants that almost went as the teacher. So many students felt connected to that, like their teacher almost went, like that could have been my teacher. So this collective trauma was just massive. And it wasn't until the internet really got going, not when it came out, but when it really got kicking around 2010, when we were able to take YouTube and slow down a video and analyze it and look up people's business profiles and university profiles. And an internet sleuth found what appears to be most of the astronauts, at least for sure, half of them, alive and well. And the reason we point to that is just the sheer impossibility of there being 3 or more exact doppelgangers with those astronauts, and they have the exact same names, some of them staying in the same profession. So it really just threw everyone for a loop. And now we're all looking at this again going, were we told the truth about this event? And like you said, we found so many other things, historical events, to be fabricated or at least lied about a little bit. That is this one also up for grabs now? It seems so.
And that's a fact, right? This is fact checked and verified that these people, they even have the same names, you said, in the same careers. And is there additional pictures of them that have been found on social media or other things, like them sort of older now, what they would look like? Or, I mean, kind of, if you can go through some of the ways that this has been verified, that would be great.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of people have brought up, well, what if these photographs are manipulated or AI? Well, 2 of them have been questioned on camera, so they're real people. And if you take a look at everything that, like you said, we have social media these days. You can literally look at people's photographs and what's going on. So yeah, they all have multiple pictures out there. Some of them have lived more of a private life. Others have kept jobs at universities. And essentially, we got that, just double confirmation when we realized that 2 journalists have, questioned them in real life, and that's on video. So, and one of them panics and sort of runs away from the camera, which, if you're not the astronaut from back then what do you have to worry about? So that was a little bizarre too. The other guy just says, oh, no, it's not me. We look alike. But if you really dig into it, it's pretty out there to think that many people can have exact lookalikes and all be on the same space flight. If you find a person every 100 years or so, but to have all of them together like that in one room, that would be like, 3 people in the same household hitting the lottery type of odds.
So, why do you think, first of all, I guess, okay, now let's fast forward a little bit.
Always the first question.
Yeah, the first question. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Secondly, now, what happened at this meeting that was so volatile that they had to kick you out? Tell everybody what happened at this meeting.
I mean, really, all I did was go in there purely with a presentation of facts of what I believe is what's going on. I said, here are these people, here are their names. I believe this needs to be looked into.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today I come here asking for your help, but first a little backstory. I think we all remember the Challenger explosion that took place in 1986 that tragically took the lives of all 7 astronauts on board. It launched not too far from where we're standing here today. Well, the interesting thing is, a couple decades later, this thing called the internet came about, and someone allegedly found almost all of those astronauts alive and well, many using the same exact names. As you can see here, we have Challenger astronaut Judith Resnick and also Judith Resnick, Yale law professor. Michael J. Smith, the pilot of the Challenger astronaut, and also professor at University of Wisconsin, now retired Michael J. Smith. Commander Dick Scobie, who is now president of Cows and Trees. Now, if you'll notice, they all have the exact same faces 30 some odd years later, the same exact name, and they are the same age. Now, we all have a doppelganger out there, right? No big deal. But to have the same face, the same age, and the same exact name is extremely rare. So rare, I could only find 1 case in the last 120 years. And we're supposed to believe that 3 people from one space flight have exact lookalikes that have the same age and same exact names. This, ladies and gentlemen, is beyond statistically impossible. Ms. Resnick was questioned at Yale by a journalist, and she panicked and ran from the camera. Why? Mr. Michael J. Smith was also questioned, and he said, "Yeah, we look alike, but that's not me." You can see both of these exchanges in a film called Level with Me, and you can be the judge. Mr.
Sir, I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to stop.
Sir, this is a public comment.
I know what it is, sir. I'm very familiar with the public comment.
Okay.
And part of the public comment is that you're only allowed to address things that we have jurisdiction over. We have no.
I have a direct request at the end of this that is in your purview, sir, please. I do. Can we hold the time, please? I have a direct request that.
Listen to me.
Okay.
Very carefully. Mr. Richardson, would you give an opinion in regards to this, please?
Yes, public comment is reserved for issues or topics that are under the jurisdiction or control of the county commission or that are relevant to the business of the county commission. So if your request at the end is going to explain why that falls into any of this, make that request now before you continue.
Absolutely. So as I was saying, I'll just end it with what I was ending with. But the ask is that Ms. Pritchett, who knows very well about questioning science, whether it be COVID or fluoride, I'm just asking you all to question the science here. Your Goodson and Pritchett, your district covers the Kennedy Space Center. This launched from the Kennedy Space Center. You have the ability to help me in sounding the alarm and asking the federal government for help. If this is contained in your area, I should be able to at least address something that happened here. Don't you agree?
That's not within the jurisdiction or authority of the county commission.
Thank you very much.
Will you let me finish for at least 10 seconds?
No, sir, you're finished. Thank you.
Thank you for taking away my freedom of speech today in here.
I did not take away your freedom of speech.
Yes, you did.
I don't want to hear it from you people down here.
Just because this is an uncomfortable topic.
Officers, please remove this man from the room.
You just violated the First Amendment.
I didn't violate the First Amendment.
No, he
violated the rules.
This is a limited public forum, and the meeting is for the purpose of the business of the county commission. It's not for this purpose.
Now, if you want to go too, take him out too. Officer, take him out also.
Everyone just calm down. They can leave willingly.
Wow.
No, we're leaving willingly. You don't have to remove us.
You just made a decision about NASA. You're making your decisions based. All right. Well, you violated the First Amendment already.
Thank you very much for your opinion.
Yeah, maybe check reading it out again.
These astronauts are alive, by the way. Look it up. You can't have 3 doppelgangers. You can't. Same face, same name, same age. It's impossible. Look it up. Statistically impossible.
On Point Behavioral Center's right down the street. That's where I suggest you go.
Just because you think this is a mental problem, I should still be able to talk. It's your opinion, sir. Have a nice day. You too. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Yeah, y'all have a good one.
All right, take care.
Thanks. As I was saying, before I was rudely interrupted and my First Amendment was violated during a public comment period here in Brevard County, I was saying that Mr. Scobie is the most interesting because not only does he have the same age, same face, same name, same slanted eye in the cheek if you look very closely, get this, he created a company called Cows and Trees, and the promo video has a cow blasting off strapped to a rocket, leaving a smoke trail eerily similar to that of the Challenger explosion. You couldn't make this up if you tried. That's why I today am calling on the Brevard County Commissioners to stand with me in demanding the Senate Subcommittee on Space Science open a new investigation into the Challenger explosion. Because if this is all one big coincidence, no big deal. But if it's true, people watch what they believe were 7 people blown up on live television, inflicting emotional and psychological trauma on millions of Americans. And we deserve to know why on earth something like that would be done. And like I was saying to Commissioner Pritchett and Commissioner Goodson, the only reason I'm back in here is because NASA ignored my last request and was completely unresponsive about the ISS discrepancies. I was blocked by their public affairs officer after one polite request. Commissioner Pritchett and Commissioner Goodson cover the area that contains the Kennedy Space Center. So I was just simply hoping that they would be able to help me in some way since it is their territory. I still thank them for their time, and I wish I was able to finish my speech, but we finished outside, and that's good enough. I hope we can get some transparency with NASA one way or another. I brought a little poster board with their pictures to sort of display what I was talking about. Everyone can watch the video, but I couldn't finish. I only have 3 minutes up there, and the gentleman in charge, the county chair, at about the 2-minute mark said, "Sir, you're done. You can't talk about this in here. This is out of our jurisdiction." And I'm like, well, they can say that. They've said that before afterwards or, after the fact, but for him to cut me off was very strange. So we had a little back and forth. I asked if I could finish. The lawyer stepped in. They shut me down, and then they had me escorted out by police. And then multiple people who stood up for me and said this isn't right were also removed by police.
So the guy, a lot of people think, oh, were you onto something in there with this? I don't think that was the case. I think this gentleman was just genuinely triggered by the topic. Maybe he's got relatives that worked in the space program, and he just, when you threaten people's belief system about something that they hold near and dear as like a fact, they can be really upset and act out of line. And I think that's what the guy in charge did. And now we have a lawsuit against him because you can't shut down someone's public comment and also tell them to go see a mental institution. That implies that you didn't kick me out for any other reason than you think I'm crazy. And last I checked, public officials don't really get a pass to do that.
So tell us about this lawsuit. What are the details of it?
Yeah, so it's really just highlighting that fact that I was, deprived of my First and 14th Amendment, and that we want basically justice for that. We want it to be acknowledged. We're not asking for a boatload of money. This isn't about money. This is about proving a point. I want to set a precedent where people can go in there and not feel threatened that a public official is going to shut them down and ridicule them on the public stage. I mean, that isn't very, I've been doing this a while now. So like I've got a thick skin with these meetings, but imagine someone building up the courage to finally go speak, and then they call you a loony and just tell you to get out of there with the police. Like, that's very disheartening and discouraging, I guess is a better word. So I want to sort of pave that way and set that precedent that we can go in there and speak freely.
Definitely. So tell us about why were you so fascinated or passionate about blowing the whistle on this particular event out of all events that are probably manufactured? What about this Challenger explosion drew your interest and made you motivated to want to blow the whistle on it and expose it?
Well, I had been speaking at city council meetings for the past few years about the COVID mandates, the vaccine injuries, and we had really made some headway by bringing firefighters in, by bringing vaccine injured in, and just taking advantage of that forum in a way to get our message put on the public record. So at that point, I thought, well, NASA's stealing, what I think, in my opinion, they're stealing, 50 to $60 million per day to fake these photographs, fake these missions, fake this ISS footage. If you're really up there, if you really went to the moon, then there would be no reason for them to fake this stuff. And I start to think about the implications of that, and they're lying about space travel, and they're teaching all these children about space and all these missions. So you're deceiving children. At what gain? What are we really hiding from humanity? If we're hiding things beyond Antarctica, other resources, more land, then there's a whole lot of deception going on. We're not just lying to kids about what it looks like. We could be hiding our true history, where we come from, more continents. This starts to open up into some greater implications, more so than just NASA lied about blowing up a rocket. So that is why it's sort of, I think if this is true and we expose NASA, I think it can unlock some of those other questions that we have about our history, about the creator, about this world, this universe, some really interesting things.
I agree with that. I mean, it's just it's like the entire premise of so many things was built on a lie. So, we have to explore that and expose it.
Mm-hmm.
So
also, just to add that onto that real quick, people want to know about, who took their Amazon package off their front door, or if their spouse is cheating on them. I think it's way more important if someone's lying about and having us in a Truman Show-esque type situation, and I'm being completely deceived about my reality and the forces around me. I mean, that's pretty significant. It's not so much just about, NASA itself.
So if you do think this whole Challenger explosion is fake, why do you think that they would do that, go through the trouble of having a teacher on there, all these people with the whole world watching, hyping it up so much, and then having this fake explosion in front of the entire world with everybody watching? What do you think would be the reason for that?
Well, that is the $1 million question. And I always have to give my disclaimer is that I don't know. I'm not in their heads. I don't have that evidence or proof, but that is the reason for my speech and my request for the investigation. But if we were to speculate, I think it's something similar to how planning and executing 9/11 built unwavering support for war and that agenda. And blowing up this rocket, I think, built some type of unimaginable support for NASA. And people will defend them at all costs, whether that be the moon landing, future missions, people questioning their authenticity. So I really don't know what their motive was. Maybe it wasn't the plan, Maybe they never send people up on these rockets and that one blew up and they said, oh no, we've got to do something with these people now. I don't know. I'd even like to frame it as the fact that maybe these people were sort of hostages and they've been forced to lie. If that's the case, then let's free these astronauts and let them live their lives out and take them out of this strange witness protection situation that they're in. But there is I don't know the answer to your question, and that is my entire goal for these presentations is to sort of get everyone talking about this, so maybe we can get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, and if you see, the moon landing, right, and just the interviews right after the moon landing
Yes.
with the astronauts, I mean, if that's not a dead giveaway, I don't know what is. I mean, gotta if you guys have not watched the interviews right after the moon landing with the
So telling.
astronauts, they look like they're hostages. They look like they're lying. They look
Right.
guilty. These do not look like astronauts that enthusiastically just went to the freaking moon and lived to tell about it. These look like their reactions are completely just incompatible to that
Hmm.
if that was real, right? I mean, they look so guilty in in that interview. And then they
They
really never
truly.
did interviews after that. Didn't they stay quiet pretty much for the rest of their lives?
It's an adventure that took place not just in the month of July, but rather one that took place in the last decade. We all here and the people listening in today had the opportunity to share that adventure over its developing and unfolding in the past months and years. It's our privilege today to share with you some of the details of that final month of July that was certainly the highlight for the three of us of that.
Now, what you're hearing here and watching him, he's moving around and his speech is stagnant in the month of great adventure. Stage fright. It's stage fright, literally stage fright.
Decade. We're going to divert a little bit from the format.
The big swallows. He's not really looking up. He's constantly looking down. He is stressed. And his hands, even when they come open, nothing else moves. It's just the hands. It's like the wrists are pinned down. Stage fright.
Of past press conferences and talk about the things that interested us most, in particular the...
And Buzz has got a little of it too. He came off a little strong, but no, he's a little of it too. So Armstrong mentions that they're all going to take turns. And Buzz starts playing with his papers. He gets a little lower, just slightly lower. He is stressed. He's got some stage fright as well. Remember, this is the time when there weren't cameras everywhere and large audiences following you around, where the average Joe could get on Instagram or YouTube and become an instant star.
The things that occurred on and about the moon. We will use a number of films and slides which most of you have already seen, and with the intent of pointing out some of the things that we observed on the spot which may not be obvious to those of you who are looking at them here from the surface of Earth. The flight, as you know, started promptly. And I think that was characteristic of...
Yeah, essentially, the main person, Neil Armstrong, really never did any public interviews. He went into total hiding, into secrecy, and his only interview that he gave was so cryptic to like a graduating class or something, and he said something along the lines of hoping that the younger generations could reveal one of truth's protective layers. I mean, talk about a cryptic, strange thing to say as an astronaut that never made any speeches. But to your point, they look like men forced to lie. They really do. And that's why I sort of keep the hypothesis open that these astronauts were forced to lie, because it looks like Buzz, Neil, and Mike were sort of told, whether a week, a month, a year, I don't know how soon before, that, hey, you're not really going to do this, and we're going to be showing the filmed footage or whatever we did. And that movie looks like an attempt to sort of explain away if there is fake footage, say, oh, well, we just had to do that in case XYZ. It really looks like Damage Control, that Fly Me to the Moon film.
Right, because I think they realize more people are finding out about it, more people are realizing it was a big hoax. And so
Right.
that's what they often do. They kind of reveal what they're doing and through like a Hollywood type production, and
Right.
it kind of removes them from guilt. It's really weird.
Pressurizing the lunar module. It took longer to depressurize the lunar module than we had anticipated, and it also took longer to get the cooling units in our backpacks operating than we had expected. In sum and substance, it took us approximately an hour longer to get ready than we had predicted. When we actually descended the ladder, it was found to be very much like the lunar gravity simulations we had performed here on Earth. And no difficulty was encountered in descending the ladder. The last step was about 3.5 feet from the surface, and we're somewhat concerned that we might have difficulty in re-entering the LEM at the end of our activity period, so we practiced that before doing the exercise of bringing the camera down, which took the subsequent surface pictures. Here you see the camera being lowered on.
But yeah, I mean, it's the whole moon landing. When you really look at the pieces of evidence and NASA itself, it just seems, I mean, it points to it being fake. It really, really does point to it being fake. And why are we not going back there all the time? I mean, what's
Right.
like, there's just so many questions. So how much, so you're saying that I was reading one of your posts on Facebook, which was, it's full of interesting posts, but one of your posts talks about the millions of dollars. You said $60 million that it goes to NASA every single day, 65 million per day.
Yeah, per day. And that's a lot of money. And we're talking about a $3 billion annual budget for the ISS
Wow.
alone. And, if they're on the up and up, I guess that's great. But can people even really name something beneficial that they've done for you personally or humanity?
No.
Nobody has anything. They just go up there and they ring out water, and they show water in their little zero gravity, which you can easily achieve in a vomit comet. You just
Mhm.
launch a plane up and then straight down, and for like 30 seconds to a minute or so, you get weightlessness. They take people on those trips all the time. So they're doing all this Hollywood trickery. Like I just did a recent interview and they said, well, how do they fake all that? And I said, well, have you ever seen Interstellar? Matthew
Yeah.
McConaughey looked like he was in space and he's not. So
It's
if
Hollywood. They can fake anything. They can make everything look real. That's what they
right, and they
do.
have a fraction of 60 million per day. So
Mm.
you have to ask yourself, again, my big question is if you're really up there, if you really went to the moon, we wouldn't have all this evidence of you faking it, you know?
Yeah.
And we didn't have the technology or the ability to investigate these things. The internet slow down these images and these videos.
So, and then you also said, so 65 million per day for fake pictures of Earth seems ridiculous when people can't afford groceries. And I can't think of a single thing NASA has done to benefit humanity. True. You also said they also murdered Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee.
Yeah, that is another crazy story because those men were supposed to go to the moon first. And
Okay.
Gus Grissom was talking not in the way that they wanted him to. He was saying, we can't even talk between two buildings. How are we
Mm-hmm.
going to get to the moon? He actually brought a lemon and hung it in the spacecraft because he's like, this thing is a lemon. And for
Huh.
those any people who don't know what that is, it's basically saying this thing is a dud and it doesn't
Okay.
work. So
Wow.
he did an impromptu press conference with the media. It really pissed off NASA. He was speaking out that it was impossible, and he was exposing that. So I think that they murdered him. He also told his wife that the CIA was messing around on the launch pad the day before his murder. His wife told Bart Sibrel that, the man who confronted most of the astronauts. So his family, his wife, and I believe his two sons, all believe that the NASA and the CIA purposefully killed those men. And the other two were basically just literally wrong place, wrong time, because Gus Grissom was such a liability to their lives. And I think that is just truly upsetting as well. I can't even stomach that one. That, you know,
Yeah.
the faking deaths is one thing, but actually murdering someone, I mean, that's just like,
Yeah, but we do know that the CIA and the deep state, I mean, that's kind of what they do. That's part of their game plan is they tend to off people who know too much. They tend to off people who know too much information or who's about to blow the whistle on something, who knows where any bodies are buried. All of a sudden,
right.
oopsie, they end up dead in a parking lot or dead with some bullets on the back of their head. That just seems to be their game.
And you really have to wonder why they're so involved with NASA. You know, if it's just a
Right.
space mission, if it's just, you know, there are theories out there which I have no proof of, but people
Mhm.
think that they act more as a worldwide intelligence agency more so than a space program. When you have all the satellites and you have all the access to the North Pole and the South Pole, the Antarctic Treaty, I mean, it's a great cover. I don't know if it's true, but if you think really play it out, it's like, who better than to monitor the entire world than the space agencies, right?
That's so true. Because you have to wonder, what do these people do all day, every day?
I know.
What's costing $65 million? They're not going to the moon every other day. They're or even pretending to go into the moon any other day. They're not visiting Mars. You know, what the hell are they doing every day? But they're doing something, obviously. That's what's costing 65 million a day.
Well, once you really open your eyes to them too, it's kind of funny because you'll hear their headline stories and it's like, oh, we're studying how, you know, bananas do in space when they're next to a microwave. And they're just like making up these random things. And like, we put twins in space and we're studying their hair growth so we can learn about, you know, hair growth and cancer research. And they just say it's literally like substitute teacher busy work 24/7.
Yeah.
Here, do these things, do these things. I'm not saying there's not like very well-intentioned, smart people that build rockets and work for NASA. Those people aren't in on it. I like to always clarify that. I think they're well-intentioned people that also believe the lie. They believe we went to the moon, and they're entrenched in it more than ever. It's hard to convince someone in the system, you know. Try to
Mm,
convince a pediatrician that vaccines are bad. It's the same basket.
interesting. So, in your opinion, do you think the moon itself is real? Do you think the moon is exactly what they say it is, or do you have any thoughts or theories on
Oh,
the moon itself?
I think it's absolutely real.
Mhm.
I just don't think, I think most things in space are misdescribed. I think they're lying to us about where the moon is, what the moon is. Same thing with the sun, the stars, gravity. There's a lot of things that I don't think they're telling us the truth about. And I think it's easier to control people when they're completely ignorant to their surroundings. Amateur footage of Mars appears to be an energetic light blinking in the sky or in water. I don't know. It just looks like a light in water. So for anyone to view true amateur footage of that and then think that there's a rover driving around on some dusty rock, Elon and NASA have some explaining to do. So I don't know what they're doing, but Elon's got those rockets sort of skipping off the sky. It almost looks like water skipping off or a rock skipping on water. Some people think they're trying to break through the firmament, some type of barrier up there, but I don't know. I'm just sitting back and watching. I like to stick to the things that we can prove, and ask the good questions to the government officials.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess my last question for you as of now is the Space Force. You know, Trump was really gung ho and excited about the Space Force, another supposed branch of the military that he was
Right.
pushing out. And that's going to be the next big revolution, the Space Force. I mean, really, like, what do you think about this Space Force? Why the significance behind it? Do you think it's even real or just another distraction? Any thoughts or theories behind the Space Force?
I really don't know what to make of the Space Force. That's a good one. I think it's either one of two things. It's either a distraction, more of just like, here's what we're doing. I think they may be retiring the ISS soon. They've actually sort of softly announced that.
Mm,
And maybe we're going to be, entertained more with Space Force stuff. I don't know. The other working theory is that they do have the faked alien invasion card up their sleeve,
yeah.
which if we don't get a blackout or another pandemic or a cyber attack, whatever. So a lot of people think they'll do the fake alien attack where it brings all the countries together for a global government. I think most people know the story. And when you have a space force, I think that's sort of the foreshadowing or setting the stage. Like we get Space Force, and then there's a threat, and then that's the force that's fighting it. I mean, it just kind of, it may go hand in hand with that. I don't know. But it very well could be conditioning for that alien invasion they want to pull.
Yeah, I think so. Something's nefarious about it. Something sketchy about it. Don't know
Strange.
exactly what yet, but I think that's to come. Justin Roberts, thanks so much for joining us. Really excited about your lawsuit. You'll have to keep us posted how it develops, how it goes.
Absolutely.
Tell everybody again where they can find you, follow you, and learn more and follow your lawsuit, which is awesome.
Yeah, so I've got my lawsuit posted on my Twitter or X account, Justin We Are Change. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok there. You can also find me on Rumble and Facebook under We Are Change Orlando. My lawsuit is in the Middle District of Florida. It's in federal court. But again, if you just go to my Twitter and search, challenger or lawsuit, you can probably find the full complaint there.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Keep us posted on the lawsuit and talk to you soon. God bless.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Guys, we will be right back right after these messages. Don't go anywhere and follow Justin. We'll be right back.